Shalom Aleichem, a good Chodesh, Freilich Hanukah. I'm sitting now by a Seudah, by a feast, by a meal. It's in honor of Hanukah, in honor of Rosh Chodesh. Also in honor, it's a Seudah Salilo, it's a Yartzeit Seudah. In honor of my great and holy ancestor, Rabbeinu Chaim and Moshe Shimshon Bacharak, the holy author of the Chavos Yair. It's a Chusi Yigan Lein Val Klisval. Amen. He's a great tzaddik. He's an anikel from the Moralme Prague. I have an anikel of his through his anikel of Moshe Spitz was the Chengaruv. The Chengaruv was the item by the Moshe Yair Krula, the Krula Ruv. His father, Meir Leib Kruller, Meir Leib Ostreich was the first Kruller Ruv, and that goes down to my Zayda, to my mother, that Yichus. Chavos Yair was a very special tzaddik. He was a great poisik, great Talmud Chacham. He wrote Sfarim, Halacha. Also wrote poetry, music. He's familiar with secular pursuits as well, astronomy particularly, and other things, even though he would tell people that it's kind of a waste of time, and it's better to learn Torah, but he was familiar with these things as well. So he was a well-rounded individual. He appreciated music, science, and history, and literature, poetry. He appreciated these things. But he was a tremendous Talmud Chacham, and the Terosei Umnosei. He was a Rav in Koblenz in Germany for a few years, and after that, he was a Rav in Bermiza and Worms, where Rashi was the Rav. He was an anikel of Rashi. He named the Sefer Chavos Yair. It's a name of a place mentioned a few times in Tanakh, mentioned in Chumash, in the Sefer Bamidbar, it's mentioned in the Sefer Yoshua, and a few other places. Chavos Yair means the villages of Yair, mentioned in the Sefer Devarim also. It's mentioned numbers in Deuteronomy and Joshua. This place in the Holy Land, but also it's kind of play on words. His grandmother's name was Chava. He said he was Chavos Yair. He belonged to Chava, to his Baba, who was a very big tzaddikus, a great Rebbitzin. And this Rebbitzin Chava Bacharak, Eva Bacharak, as she was sometimes referred, was from her yichus. She was an anikel from the Moralme Prague, and very holy woman, and also a scholarly woman, a Jewish woman, a Torah scholar. And so a great role model to this very day, without formal schooling. She didn't need all these programs that they have now. She was a learned person on her own. Anyway, I wanted to share something I found online. I'll translate. It's of course, in the original Lashon HaKodesh from the Chavos Yair, a very interesting tshuva. It's in Chavos Yair Siman Kuf Chav Daled. So it's a chapter or marking this letter, this answer. Chavos Yair is his response. So someone, this is number 124, and the response to the Chavos Yair, and sent to someone, a friend of someone who a follower of the Zayda, the Chavos Yair, the Heilige Zayda, the Chavos Yair, and concerning the question of this particular gentleman had only one son, and his son just became bar mitzvah, and he wanted to know a curriculum, a Seder HaLimud, a study curriculum that he should follow. And so the Holy Zayda, the Chavos Yair, answers a few paragraphs about what path, what kind of curriculum you should follow. So he answers like this: Valdavar b'koshcha shediacha seder limud bincha yichidcha asher havta hoylech alidieni ata ezes form shekvar lamad baki vehem. So he said, I want to answer your question that you're asking for advice, you're asking for hadracha, you're asking for a pathway and what to follow as far as what kind of studies your son should follow. He's your only son that you love. That's of course quoting from Genesis. So first you should let me know which books did he already study and that he's familiar with. Now, since you told me that at his bar mitzvah he said a very beautiful sermon, I think that he must have already learned Agadata, Divrei Agada, like the Medrash Rabbah, the Sefer Yankov. And the thing is really, these are very nice for Bachrim. These are very nice things for young men to study, because they're really, he says, Kiparporis Lifnei Seudah. He said they're like a first course, like appetizers before you have a meal. We could discuss what that means, on your own, what that means, how studying Midrash and Agada are appetizers. One thing is, it gets a person excited to learn. Children, young people, they like to learn Midrashim, and through that, and Yaakov, they take out from the Shas, from the Talmud, the Agadah, to the stories and the teachings that are interesting, but not legal matter, but rather folklore. I don't mean it to say it's not true, but things that are ethical teachings and things like that, that that get a person excited to learn. And then when when someone's excited about that, they're going to want to go and learn inside. They're going to want to finish Shas because they got excited with their Gadata. So that's one explanation of how a Gadata is an appetizer before a meal. And so, and also, a lot of people like to listen to it, meaning you have some idea, some pshat or drush, whether it's a simple idea, the plain meaning, whether you want to say a homily, that you're going to want to, that when you're studying Agadata and Midrashim, you enjoy it, and also when you tell it to other people, they enjoy hearing it. That's, typically a rabbi is looking for something to say a sermon on, he's going to look at the Agadata, right? Because people enjoy hearing things like that. And so if you you go to hear a sermon from a great rabbi, a gadol, what does he put into his words, into his voice, and he gives over his ideas and his understandings. So then people, when they hear this, people are going to say, oh, this person is such a lamdan, he's such a scholar, and then he's going to become well known for that. And not only that, it's going to be good for his material life. Why? Because he'll find a good shidduch, he'll find a good marriage partner, he'll find a wife. It says in Proverbs, you find a wife, you find good. He could also hoin va'oisher, and also, all right, he might be a famous speaker, and he'll be successful materially, financially successful because he's a popular speaker. Afki loize derech, loizu ear, v'geter landa nemiti asher ze kana chachma v'ola v'salat shenikra v'leishyurei harois v'chukim tovim yisham kisvil v'nafshay malay basa v'yayin gufei ater. But that's not the right path, he said. He said, all right, sure. Meaning, he's not saying don't study these things. Sure, they're good to start, and people will be impressed by you, and that's nice, and there's a lot of good, but that's not. But if you only eat, if some people they only eat appetizers, and they don't have their main course. That's kind of where I'm holding in this meal. Physically, I had the fish in the soup. I didn't have the meat yet, but I was so excited to get to the real meat, to the Torah, that I didn't get to the actual food yet. But the soup that my wife made was very good in honor of this special occasion. See, so the real meat and potatoes, or the meat and the wine, is the halacha, is the Jewish law, and not only just to know it, but to understand it and to be able to render a psak and to teach others. And when people come and ask a question in Jewish law, you should be able to answer and answer properly. And that's the real point. And all these other things are just nice things on the side for an appetizer, for a dessert, but they're not the main course. The main course is halacha. Midrashim and Agadata are side dishes, are dessert, are are appetizers, but the real meal is the halacha. Val davar seder hamadregos, davar kosher hu liyachid apshu asher muflag l'snaig by in benoy afim yimsel le'lamdan muflag u'melamed l'shem shemayim le'el tzorech hagadol al-limud dibuk chaverim. So the next point says is that who should he learn with? Even if someone's very wealthy, so he doesn't have to go to work, and he can sit and learn with his son, it's not the full essence of learning. And if he hires a great scholarly malamed, someone to study with him, also it's missing something. What he needs is to have a chavrusa who is a peer. He needs to have a friend who he can study with, who is a peer and who is a true friend. And by having good friends who are positive influences, that's a great thing, because it's written that you can learn more from your friends than from your teachers. So the only way to do this is to have 4 or 5 homeowners, 4 or 5 fathers get together and hire malamed to teach 5 or 6 boys, or maybe a few more. Let's say a few sons, maybe 10 boys altogether, 20 boys, whatever it is, and not to have more than that. And then and with those families together hiring a teacher, this teacher will be able to survive, and it's going to help on all kinds of levels. It's going to help the teacher because he's going to make more money, because he's going to have a few families pitching in, even if each one pays less than they would if they would hire him individually, but they're all together, so he's going to make a comfortable living and be able to focus on this very important task. And the boys are going to have the confidence and the success of both having a teacher and having friends who learn with them. Alright, the next point will say, Sine Kosher Ma'oid L'Karev Eiz L'Munim L'rachik kitzasan b'asher kulam ahuvim, kulam brurim, kulam oimdim berumei shaloylam. Chonos lahan si tachlis v'vuka shel shleimus, shleimus al nefesh v'chlilu loymer shmua zed noah v'zed zu ein noah. Rag mitzad shebechol choch me'ikrei seder adrogan achoyna hachad nami u'sagas chochmas eter. Now, question is like this. He said, I can never, God forbid, say, learn this and don't learn that. To bring close this type of study and push away another type of study. All Torah is lovely, it's clear, it's important, it stands at the top of the world. And they come to the whole purpose of learning Torah is self-perfection, self-help, coming to shleimus, which is, when we talk about shleimus, perfection, we're talking about spiritual perfection, shleimus and nefesh. And I can't say that this book is good and this book is bad. This one's nice, this one's not nice. They're all Torah, they're all beautiful. The only thing is, there's an order to how to study. Meaning some people, they might study things that are not as important in the matter of the order. Meaning when you get to a certain level, you've already studied these things and you'll study these other things more in depth. And you can change your focus. But until you have the foundations to study these other things, have to be secondary. It's not to say there's no part of Torah that you shouldn't study at all. It's just, what do you focus on and what should be the foundations of your study? So first, the Shas, the Talmud. So it says, "V'badei Talmud ein lecha mida teva mena." There's nothing better than learning Gemara. However, it's very difficult to study unless you learn it with Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, Gefes, and you have a set time to learn in general. For example, like every day to learn a blot Gemara, a page. And that's more than enough even for a very choshev bacher to learn one blot a day. If he wants to keep it, because he's going to learn too much, he's going to forget it. See, he shouldn't learn more than a page a day. Because otherwise he's just going to lose everything if he just tries to. So he's going to try to do 20 pages in a day. He's not going to get anything out of it. So the thing is, what he says is, you could take a few years, and you should, in those couple of years, you should be able to have 4 or 5 of the big Masechtas covered. That's good for a bacher. That's a great goal, is to cover, not only cover, but know well 4 or 5 Masechtas. But more important than learning Gemara is learning Halacha, he says. Again, he's not saying this is nice, this is not nice. They're all equally beautiful. But there's an importance in learning Halacha because it's practical. We don't base our life on what the Talmud says. We base our life on what the Shulchan Aruch says. And the Shulchan Aruch is based on the Talmud, and the Talmud is based on the Bible. But to know how to live practically, we need the Shulchan Aruch. So you should learn the tour, and he said he saw a lot of Bachrim who make a mistake. that every day they listen to a shiur from the tour. Um, and other svarim and the halacha. And the thing is instead of learning, let's say, they should be learning or chaim, daily laws. Instead, they learn choshen mishpat, which is business laws, money laws that don't have anything to do with a teenage boy. So he said, choshen mishpat should be the last thing to learn. He's not saying, God forbid, to belittle studying choshen mishpat, to learn the laws of God. They're very holy. We're not allowed to follow the pagan way, which is or the secular way, which is just to follow our person just follows whatever he thinks instead of having rules to follow. That's what the Chacham Hamiti, Harim, the Bal HaKeda, kiss his lips. This is what the Bal HaKeda writes. We can't just do whatever we want. However, the real to learn is like this. He says there's three things. First, sometimes where does it come up that Bachim are hearing and learning choshen mishpat, learning things that are more advanced that they don't need to learn? One is that the teacher is a rabbi. He wants to learn these things for himself, so he's the excuse to learn it to others, to teach it to others. He has an excuse to learn it because he needs to learn it, and he does need to learn it, but he feels like he doesn't have time, so he's going to try to make the time when he's teaching someone else. But he's teaching teenage boys who shouldn't be learning this. I mean, I have an issue like that sometimes, I'm at work, and I'm supposed to be doing something Jewish, so I'm learning the Gemara, so I learn with them the Gemara, even though they might not understand what it's about. I might just be reading it in the Hebrew without translating, because it sounds like a Jewish service. But that's what he doesn't. But the thing is that this rabbi who's teaching, he because he already learned other things. It's time for him to learn these things. He's ready to learn choshen mishpat, but that doesn't mean that he should teach it to the bachrim who need to learn archaim. The second thing is that people become arrogant, and they think, they want to learn, they're going to just go straight, if you know choshen mishpat, you can be a dayan, right? You could be a rabbinical judge. So they're going to skip the basics and they're going to skip Orachayim and Yeredeya and go straight to Even HaEzer and Choshen Mishpat. It's this way, you're a dayan, they have a nice job to be a dayan. And then not only that, so once you're a dayan, meaning they're going to appoint this person to be a dayan, and the thing is, it's not l'shma, so it's on a very low level, and we find that such dayanim are the ones who could find the guilty innocent and the innocent guilty, uh, and they might have empty reasoning to that. Perhaps they were bribed, and that type of thing cannot succeed. Like Moses said, we mentioned yesterday. And maybe I don't think this video is going to get as many views as the as yesterday's, but maybe we can daven and hope for the schus of the Chavos Yair, schus the holy zayd of the Chavos Yair, schus in maybe this video gets so many views. The third thing is that the person is gonna he likes to make a pilpul and he wants to show off, and it's interesting for his mind. Like it says, if someone wants to be wise, he should learn the laws of monetary laws because it's very wise. It takes a lot of wisdom to understand. But the thing is again, you have to have everything at the right time. You have to first study the basics before you can jump into things that are too far ahead. So, and not only that, but it's disrespectful to the basics, meaning to jump right into Choshen Mishpat and not to learn Orach Chaim is an insult to Orach Chaim. And the thing is that there's so much beauty and importance and schus in Orach Chaim. Not only that, but in Yom Orach Chaim, they come up every day. So therefore, the first thing every Jew should learn is Orach Chaim, the first portion of the Code of Jewish Law. After you finish Orach Chaim, then you go on to your Adeya. Shagam kein mad toivim anoim she'ed lahavin laharis b'veisai from kalam shem k'veyasa kuchta kutacha ayim is rami b'makam shein ish. It's like he said you should know you're a day. You're gonna know how to operate your house, simple things, how to mix an egg into a kugel. It's not exactly translating that Aramaic idiom into something else, but it's close. And the thing is sometimes you won't know who to ask. You won't have a rav to go ask a shaila to. So it's good you should know yourself. You're a deya. That's, nowadays we give smicha on usually your Deya. That's the first level. Then if you master your Deya, then you could go on to Choshen Mishpat, become a dayan. So the thing is, that should be the first thing. These two, the Orach Chaim, the Deya, the first half of the first two quarters, the first half of the Shulchan Aruch, that's what we should focus on. There's mountains and mountains of mitzvahs that we're required to do with all of their details over and over again. That's what we find much more than you find in the Choshen Mishpat. And even if there are things that you should just know, even if you're not actually going to follow them, it's good to know. So these days, a bacher, the best thing to do for anybody, every Jew should learn Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim means the way of life, and it follows what it's just like its name. And Yosef Shakol v'Galmud ve'in ish sham alev dugmas mesechtes my cotton shezocher bal sefer chasidim, and then a person should also have a masechta to learn, like Moed Katan or something, that he should memorize. That's what the Sefer Chasidim brings, to memorize a masechta. The next thing is to learn about our faith. It's not just enough to know what to do, but we have to know what to believe. In the old days, from what I've heard, people would learn, Bachrim would learn the Sefer Hakeda, Ikrim, the Kuzari, Sfarim like this. These are all Sfarim that speak about faith. Hashkafa, what do we call in English? Apologetics, particularly the Kuzari is a book of Jewish apologetics. Because they wanted to perfect their souls. What is the perfection of the soul? Is faith. This is what the Seudah, the Chavos Yair writes. Faith in the roots of our religion, and so that's why they would learn these Sfarim which spoke about this. And that's the right thing. You know, and he says, I don't know why these days they don't learn these Sfarim. He said, we have to learn these Sfarim. A Bachar has to learn these Sfarim to know what to believe. You know, there's such a crisis of faith in our community today. We're talking 500 years ago, whatever, 400 years ago, whatever, when the Seudah, the Chavos Yair, was writing this, and he said, we don't study these Sfarim, and that's what we should be studying, is writings about faith. Understand why we believe what we believe. Things I speak about often. And so it's good for us, together with our children, to understand what are we required to believe. And we don't need to have philosophy that's foreign to our faith. We should be filled and satisfied with the faith that's taught in our holy Sfarim. And he says, I wrote about this elsewhere. And he said it. Another thing is they should learn for this reason the Chavos Yair, the duties of the heart, which also talks about. He said the old days some they would learn the Chavos Yair, which talks about how to understand these things. The rest of the Chavos Yair talks about knowing God, fearing God. You know, he said, how could it be that a rabbi could know the laws of marriage and divorce, which, you know, divorce is a very difficult, I don't mean just, of course, divorce is difficult. I mean, the study and the laws of divorce are probably the most difficult, one of the most difficult things for a rabbi to learn. You need to be a very great rabbi to be involved in these things. And he said, how could it be a rabbi is involved in marriage and divorce or other rabbinical duties and very difficult things to study, and yet he doesn't know the Chavos Yair that every Jew has to know. And also the Sefer Ikrim, the first mimer, the end of the third chapter. And he said this is like the Orach Chaim of faith. Meaning we have the Orach Chaim that teaches us how to live, but we also need the Orach Chaim to teach us why and what to think. And so every Jew has to be at least familiar a little bit with the basic ideas and the general ideas and most of the details. And this is very choice, very good. This is a good idea. This is what the sages say, that if someone learns just to teach, he can learn, he can teach. But if he learns to do, then he can learn and he can do, he can teach and he can do and he can keep. So the whole point of learning is doing. Even though learning itself is a mitzvah that raises a person's soul more than any deed, like our sages say, because Torah could save us in a way that mitzvahs can't. However, there's no doubt that they're supposed to bring us to deeds, to life. That's a higher level. Just in learning theoretically, but to learn practically. As it says, that's the greatness of study, is that it brings a person to good deeds. Now the Tosfos asks, and the Chosed, the Bala Shloh, also a Zayda from another side, from the same family, also from the same family, but going in a different direction. The Shloh says, and he said, I also, excuse me, wrote about these things, but this is not the place to talk about them. But when the Talmud asks halachas of what's going to be when Mashiach comes and things like that, why do we even have all the Seder Kodshim and the Shas laws of sacrifices that don't apply today? So we see that we should still learn things even if they're not practical today. We shouldn't stop learning them. But the thing is, it's more than I guess. We have to learn everything. We have to finish the Shas. We have to finish the Shulchan Aruch. We have to have an order. And, you shouldn't be studying. It depends what time. What first things first, Yes, but you should be learning Kodshim. You should be learning laws of sacrifices. But there's a time and a place. And it's a much higher level to learn things that are practical. And this is true. And so therefore we have to focus on the things that we have to follow every day. And he said this is a very common sin that people don't follow these common things. The next thing is learning Mishnayos. It's very good that a father should make sure his son should know how to learn halacha, most of Shas. The way is that he should learn with his Rebbe every day at least one chapter of Mishnayos. And if they're very difficult or very long chapters, he could learn half a chapter. But he should make sure that he's always going over again and again the Mishnayos and not giving up on that, not being lazy. The Zayda, the Kruler Rav, he would learn Mishnayos all the time. He would learn 18 chapters of Mishnah a day. If you do that for a month, you finish the whole Shas Mishnayos in a month. I did that once or twice. I don't remember. Now I don't. But it's important to learn Mishnayos and to go over them. And that makes it easier to learn Gemara if you're familiar with the Mishnayos. So it's very important. It's because it's setting a foundation. And he says, now that we have the Bartanura, he said that's just like learning Gemara. So he said we should learn Mishnayos and the Bartanura. And he said, really, we have a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It says the 5-year-old should learn the Bible, and the 10-year-old should learn the Mishnah, and the 15-year-old should learn Gemara. So that shows that you shouldn't start learning Gemara until you finish the Mishnayos first. So if that was in the old days when they had, very clear minds, nowadays even more so. Those days their hearts, meaning their minds, were open like a big wedding hall, and now our minds are open like a little pinhole compared to. Again, he's talking 400 years ago. But this is. But one of the reasons why it was like that is so that you could answer. The answer to that question, though, is that nowadays we have Mishnayos and the Gemara written down. In those days they didn't, so they had to memorize it. And then even later, it was hard. Even was written down, but not everybody had manuscripts. Now we have printers. So nowadays, in those days you need a lot of time to learn Mishnayos, so they memorize it. Nowadays it's different, that we have things written down, so that's why, so the boys are starting to learn Gemara earlier, but still it's a good idea to be familiar with the Mishnayos. But he said, in the old days they would start off with the Tanakh, meaning they would, from 5 years old to 10 years old, they would finish the whole Bible. It didn't mean they stopped learning Bible once they turned 10 years old, but then only once they learned the whole Bible did they start with the Mishnah. And then for 5 years they started the whole Mishnah. And then they would be ready for Gemara when they're 15. Nowadays, boys are starting to learn Gemara when they're 11 or 12. But part of that is because nowadays we have printing presses, and so it's a little different. But still, he said that his father taught him every day a parak of Mishnayos when he was a child, until he turned bar mitzvah. He started learning Gemara and finished Shas. It was close to when his father, Zatzal, we're talking about where Moshe Shimshon, Bacharach, that's when he was Rav in Verms. It was in the end of the year Taf Yud. So that's you know, 360 years ago. So he said he would learn with me and with my friends, who were very special Bachim. They would learn the Rif a little bit with his Chedushim, and he said that's a good thing to learn. And also, he said that his Shver, Reb Zussman from Bulda, which was a working city, Mamlachta, Bulda ir Mamlachta, that Reb Zussman was the Rav in Bulda, and he learned from his Rabbanim and his son, meaning his brother, the Chavos Yair's brother-in-law, Itzik, who was the Bulda Rav, that he could learn the whole Mishnayos in 3 years. and then he could really know well the tour. All these things are open, the Rif, the Rosh, all these things. He said the Rosh is on the Rif is like the Tosfos on the Shas, and also the tour with their sources and the Shas. And he said there's nothing better than learning the Rosh and the Rif, the Rosh and Shas. Many pages in the Shas. I wonder if it's something we could look in the Shas without wasting time searching. He said he also learned from Pinchas Horowitz, who's the Rav in Fulda, and later in Prague, very well known, a great tzaddik, about the importance of learning the Rosh. And he followed his psak like it was given from Mount Sinai, from Har Sinai, and he didn't worry if the Rosh went against the Ramah. He said, all right, he could also follow the Rosh. And that's why I saw in my youth, and when I was standing before him in the yeshiva of my father, the Gaon, he said to Moshe Shimshon, he would sit next to the Aron Kodesh in the southern wall in the old shul, maybe called New. But also he's saying he shouldn't waste his time with chilukim and charifas that are just empty. He said this is a very common problem these days. And in the old days there was no such thing. In the Gemara and the Tosfos, and they would lift up mountains and things. And so he said, therefore, you should just learn in a simple way, and learn in a straightforward way, and not waste time. And it's signed here, Yoreh Chaim Bakarach, Adkan L'Shoinai. So it was a very, very interesting limud. Zechusi again, Elena Moklus. Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully this video should be Marba Kvod Shemayim and bring COVID and the Liyah to the neshama of the great Seudah, the Chavos Yair, Zechusi again, Elena Moklus. And we should be zeiche to good hashbois and a good Chodesh and a Freilich and Hanukah and all the hashbos and the near Hanukah. I can see Yoreh Chaim. Our life should be. His name was Yoreh Chaim. Our life should be filled with light. Chavos Yair, our towns, our communities should be filled with light. The light of Torah. We should be able to spread Torah, to be Marbitz Torah and Marba Kvod Shemayim. And there should be Zoich to be a Skol Tzedek and Amen. Again, please like, share, and subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. Thank you very much, and God bless.